is better when you start prioritizing yourself and living it with passion. We only get one life, so you should definitely live the life of your dreams, live it with passion because passion is priceless.
Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast discussing meditation, the near death experience, spiritually inspirational and transformative experiences. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. I'm your host, author, and teacher, Jay Spillers. I have a guest today, Christina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, why don't you
Can
tell
you
the
hear me?
audience about your story? What?
All right. So, my backstory is that I am actually a domestic violence survivor. That was several years ago. I had to learn how to rebuild my life from the ground up. I started prioritizing myself and my dreams. And in the process of chasing my dreams, I actually started traveling the world. So I have been traveling the world now for almost 2 years. And I am a big proponent of how traveling can help you heal.
So, you had a domestic violence was it like a spousal boyfriend kind of thing or
Yes, so I was previously married for 6.5 years. They always say it doesn't start off as violent as it eventually gets, and that was mine was no different. But it got to a point where I had to decide if, my life was worth living on my terms or if his life was more important, because you never know what's going to happen. You may live, you may not. I'm not saying I was going to, but that was definitely a thought in my head of, is my life worth it? So that was kind of the shift that I needed to say, okay, enough is enough. And then I started making plans to get out of it.
did you have kind of a spiritual experience or awakening through this whole thing or
So a little bit yes, a little bit no. So I believe in God. I've always believed in God, and I have always felt like as bad as my life was at times, I will always continue to have a good life. So that's kind of how I look at it. That being said, the spiritual awakening came years later, well after the divorce and everything else. It came actually when I was rear-ended in a car accident. So I was rear-ended in a car accident. I got a concussion. I had to skip work for a while because of the concussion. And eventually, my boss came to me and said, we're going to have to start taking your vacation days. And at that point, I was already like, I got to get out of here. I don't know what to do about it. But with that point in time, when he said he had to take my vacation days away, I'm like, the one thing that's making my life better right now, I'm missing out on so many things because I have a concussion. My brain's not working the same. So yeah, that was the awakening. That was when I was like, okay, I need to stop making my boss's dreams come true and make my own dreams come true. So that was my awakening. That's when I started really passionately pursuing what I wanted in life.
did you feel like did you feel like a connection to God or anything in it or was it just sort of like I had a focus of where I wanted to go?
Yeah, it was all of the above, like I said. So I have very much believed in God my entire life. My mom had us growing up, we went to church and everything else. So that relationship has always been there. I've had times when I'll say, I'll go back into the domestic violence part when I was sitting in a closet crying, like hiding from my ex, trying to be away from the time. And, I just remember thinking, like, God, you have so many things. Like you give us so many things, and I know you say that you don't give us more than what we can handle, but I'm feeling like I can't handle this. But at the same time, like I know that I will overcome it. So I've always had a deep connection rooted in me in like with God and everything else. So it's just how it all presented itself, I guess.
So like was this like a life or death threatening situation and were the signs kind of there that he was violent or did something trigger later in the relationship that made things different?
So yeah, it's a little bit of both. So the signs were definitely always there, but love blinders sometimes get you good. And so they got me good. I kind of just ignored the signs in the beginning that he had probably started being violent, like, I don't know, a couple years before the big blow up, I'll say. So at least like 3 years before, if not longer. But yeah, the signs were there. I just kind of ignored them because that's what you do when you love someone, unfortunately. But then there was also a shift in him. Like he didn't quite know who he was. He didn't have a relationship with God. And for him, he just kind of I'll say he went the wrong way. Like, he started drinking and doing drugs and all the things. And I'm not saying that that's what caused it, but there was definitely a lack on his part that he didn't know. He just didn't know who he was, how to control who he was, what he wanted in life. And so, unfortunately, that resulted in him doing all those things. But on top of that, he also cheated. So, when he cheated, I eventually found out about 6 months later. And then when I found out, um, I was like, I can't stay in this, and he wanted me to stay. So he tried to forcibly keep me there. So even more so than how he was before, that was when he really started getting progressively violent, was because he wanted me to forcibly stay there and not leave him.
Hmm. Well, a lot of times it's progressive where, like it starts with verbal or emotional abuse, and then they sort of like maybe like kind of start to get physical where they get in your face, but they're not hitting you, and then it just progresses. Is that kind of what happened too?
Yeah. Yeah, so he was verbally abusive for a long time. It definitely got worse and then went into physically abusive. So yeah, it wasn't like it just started out one day out of nowhere. It was, yes, progressively worse. And years later, I realized like, that's part of the cycle of violence.
Hmm.
So.
But it sounds like his life was kind of messed up because he had abuse, affairs, addictions, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that being said, it didn't always start out that way. So that was more towards the end of it. In the beginning, there was none of that, which, why would you get married if there is? But there was none of that in the beginning. It was very much like just him and I against the world, and then it just kind of turned into that. So he also had like I'll say a work shift where he went from working a job to now he wasn't going to work the job, and just I think him losing part of that was like, who am I?
Hmm. So where did this shift you to? Because like you had this abusive relationship, then you had this experience with your boss, and then you're like, I'm going in a different direction. What direction did this take you in?
So I'm gonna say when I got out of the relationship, I decided to start prioritizing myself, my goals, and my dreams, and to whatever capacity that looked like. And I kind of made a promise to myself that I wasn't gonna let anybody, especially a guy, no offense, dictate what I did or didn't do anymore. Because for me, let's say I wanted to go hiking. He never wanted me to go hiking because he didn't want to go and he was afraid that I was going to like fall off a cliff. So I just never went. So I made a promise to myself that if I wanted to go somewhere, I was going to go. So I started doing solo travel probably at least 5 years ago, but just on vacations or holidays, depending on what you call them, just for those times. And then eventually, once I had the concussion, I got the strength to be like, no, I am prioritizing all of my dreams, not just when it's convenient because of holidays. I'm prioritizing them every single day. So that's what I started doing, and that's why I started traveling, was because that's my dream.
You're listening to the Inspire Me with Jay podcast. Please do like and subscribe to the channel, bringing hope and inspiration to the world.
So do you, I mean, for like work, are you like doing a travel vlog or something like that?
No, I'm actually a life coach and inspirational speaker. So I have a one-on-one coaching program where I teach other people how to pursue their dreams as well, because I just feel like life has gotten so much better when I started living it with passion, and I want others to have that experience as well.
Hmm. How did you become a life coach? Did you go through like a program or?
So actually it was based on a lot of experience, because I have a lot of experience in a lot of other things as well. And it's just kind of, been a thing of mine where I try to inspire people and make people want to be happier, pursue their dreams, everything else. So it just kind of, I'll say, all came together. And I do feel like that's part of like God telling me, hey, like this is what I put you through all this stuff for. I put you through all of this because I want you to go after things. I want you to help people.
Hmm. So, I mean, how do you find people, do you like specialize with people that are in really bad relationships or people that just feel stuck? I mean,
So,
where do you reach most of your people?
yeah, so most of the people that I work with, I mean, really everybody wants to follow their dreams. So really it's kind of, you know, that in itself is good. However, my I help statement I'll say is I help people who are ready to move on from their past and step into an amazing new chapter of life and love. So basically, yes, people that have come out of toxic relationships, just relationships in general, or just really don't know where they're at in life and they know that they want to change but don't know how to make those changes. I'm there to help them because I've made a lot of changes in my life, and yeah, it just gets better and better when you start focusing on what you want.
Hmm. So you talked about living with passion. Have you been like influenced by like Tony Robbins and done his programs and stuff?
I do know about Tony Robbins. Yeah, I've listened to so many like positive thinking, inspirational things. Basically when I got out of my relationship, that's really where I started prioritizing was I started prioritizing, like anything positive. So whether that be the music that I found to be positive or books or listening to things or podcasts, I basically tried to pour as much positivity into myself to get myself out of that negative place. And, for that, it just kept going.
Hmm. Well, like when someone comes to you and says, I'm stuck, I would like to have the better life that you're talking about, but I have no idea where to even start. Like, where would you tell people to start?
So for me, if they're working with my program, I have the Reflect to Rise strategy, which is a proven strategy. It's the same strategy that I use to get out of it. So basically, we go into someone's past because you never know what's running in the background. It could be you're still hurt over a situation, a relationship. You could just have things that you don't even know about, actually. And so it's really stepping away from the situation, I'll say, and looking back at it with a clear mind or having someone else do it. And, being able to say, okay, I think this is kind of where you're coming from on these points. And what if we tried it differently? So we've got the reflecting phase, the reclaiming phase, and the rising phase. So after reflecting, we have reclaiming. So then you start talking about all the things that you want in your life and how to get that. And we actually make an outline of what you want to see happen. And then eventually we get into the rising phase, which I think is one of the best phases because then you get to see all of that happening. You get to see yourself reaching those goals and dreams and everything else. And it's a really great time for the person and for the coach to be able to see them changing.
Is it kind of like, and maybe it incorporates it in, is it sort of like NLP, neuro linguistic programming?
A little bit. There's a lot of things that you may not even know that you have running in the background. You may be conditioned to, like, let's say, letting family run your life, things like that, or seeking someone's approval. You may be conditioned to that. And so it's kind of going in, figuring out what those things are, and then learning how to undo them, and then creating it where you don't have those, basically.
Hmm. Well, I mean, probably a lot of people have that going on because, like, even if you're not in a bad relationship, you're probably, you know, trying to appease someone else, in a relationship, just to make things smooth.
Yep. But there's also a difference between making things smooth and not having a voice. So we want to make sure that those people still have their voices.
Hmm. I mean, most of the people you work with, do you work with them online or do you work with them in person?
Yeah, I work with them mainly online. Occasionally there will be some in person, but typically it's online. And that kind of allows it to be whatever schedule they want, wherever they want, everything else.
Hmm. How long does it usually take when they start your program to go through it?
So I have a 3-month program, so it takes 3 months, but some people they start seeing change right away. It really depends on how open you are to the change versus how much you're not open to it and how much you have to uncover. So there's a lot of different aspects that go into it. And some people are ready to go right off the bat, and some people are like, not so sure about this. So each person's different, and it also depends on how much work they want to put in on themselves because you really have to want to change to have that change happen.
Hmm. Well, I mean, is part of it that, they feel like someone's there to kind of guide them and, you kind of have that presence for them in their life, that they're kind of doing the changing. You're just sort of like
Yeah,
giving them a little bit of direction.
exactly. That's 100% what it is. I'm not going to change somebody. It's really them putting in the work on themselves. And yeah, I'm just going to guide them on how to do that because so many times people just get stuck. They don't know where to start, so they don't try. So I'm there to say, okay, this is what you should be doing. And then we have a plan to keep them on track.
And where did the 3R program come from?
It's the same thing that I used. I used reflectivized strategy um, for myself. So I had to go into my past, figure out what was still running my life, what I was able to overcome, wasn't able to overcome, and figure out how to overcome them. And it's a lot easier when you have somebody telling you, "Hey, this is what I can see." But when you're doing it by yourself, it really does take a lot longer and you don't really have that stepping back moment as much. So it just came from what I've done, and that's also why it's proven because, I was able to do that and rebuild my life, but build the life that I actually wanted. So that's where it came from. It came from me.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn: mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6-star rating, available on Amazon. And so, like, when they're doing the 3Rs, are they just kind of like in a chair with a pad and pencil and trying to think? Or are they like, do you take them in like a hypnotic state, or what's the easiest way for you to do the 3Rs?
So I actually offer like a whole program with it. So part of that is, and I'm trying to remember that I have all of them correctly, but part of that is you have weekly one-on-one coaching. I have like workbooks, daily affirmations. What else? I have meditations. I have a lot of things. They're all written down. I just don't have them pulled up in front of me at the moment. But having all the structure around it, so it's not just I'm going to sit in a chair, I'm going to tell you what to do, take notes. It's really more of a thing where they can almost like have homework. So they have homework of like, okay, this is what I need to get done this week and see how it goes. So, and then because they are customized, personalized plans, then we're able to shift it as needed.
Would you have like a few key stories, like people who had major breakthroughs incorporating your program?
Yeah, so my friend, well, my she's friends now, but my student Steph, she actually she had gotten out of a bad relationship. Her mother had just passed away, her grandmother passed away before that. And so there were a lot of things that were wired in her brain in terms of like she thought she wasn't good enough. She thought because, the guy left, she was like, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with me." She thought it was something she had done, things like that. Then I'll say the normal thing when you get out of a breakup, you often wonder why. And so we decided to start rewriting her story. And so now she's like, okay, I'm gonna go start accomplishing my goals. So one of the things that she wants is to, you know, um, become a journalist. So she's taking journalism classes. She's learning Spanish. She's learning to become a boat person, the person that steers the boat, a boat captain, sorry. So, it's learning what you really want in your life and learning how to put it in there. So that's essentially what my clients learn how to do is start putting in the things that they want into their lives.
Hmm. Well, so do you just work, do you work with men and women or just women or?
No, I work with men and women because, men unfortunately have traumas as well that they sometimes need to overcome. And, they have goals too. So, yeah, I work with both because I just want the world to be a happier place. So, I feel like the way for that to happen is to have as many people as possible, getting their goals, getting their dreams, prioritizing themselves.
Hmm. So, is there like one final message you like to leave with the audience, um, that could be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, life is better when you start prioritizing yourself and living it with passion. We only get one life, so you should definitely live the life of your dreams, live it with passion because passion is priceless.
Oh, well, thanks for coming on the show today. Now, where can people reach out to you? Like, you have a Facebook page, obviously. Is there other places where they can reach you?
Mhm. So, yes. So I have a website. It's gemmastery.com. So GEMMASTERY.com. That's my website. It stands for Growth Empowered Mindset, also spells GEM because previously I have a gemology degree. So that pays tribute to that. But gemmastery.com. You can also find me at Happy Mindset Travel Girl on Facebook, no, on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then you can also find me on Facebook with my name, Christina Volkovich.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure to have you.
You're welcome.